Hello students, welcome to Royal Palace PU College Jamkhandi online classes. My name is Sanjay sir and I'll be teaching you biology. Since we were studying about ecology, today will be the third topic of ecology, and that is the study of major abiotic factors. To start with, let me tell you that in NCERT, the topmost major abiotic factors that they have mentioned are: the first one is temperature, second one the water, third one light, and the fourth one is soil. Before doing this, let me tell you a little information about what are abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are those factors which doesn't have life, but they have got a very high concentration of influence on the living organisms. In these 4 points or 4 factors of abiotic factors, in each and every factor I'll be telling you about 7 basic points which are exactly the same present in our NCERT textbooks. So let's start with the first abiotic factor, that is as temperature. Temperature is an ecologically relevant factor. This plays a very high role in the basic maintenance, physiology, metabolism of a lot of organisms. We have got 3 seasons, namely winter season, rainy season, and summer season. And in these 3 seasons, we don't have the same kind of a temperature throughout the world or biosphere or the earth. Even we should have to understand a fact that whatever the land concentration that we have in our planet Earth, the temperature concentration is not at all same. So this is my first point, telling you that considerably, seasonally, the temperature of different lands varies. Now if we take a look at the biosphere, it contains longitudes and latitudes. The middle one or middle region is called as equator region, and the topmost and bottommost regions are called as the polar regions. If we start moving from the equator region to a polar region, the temperature starts or keeps on decreasing. And we have got a condition called as the land. Now let's take an example wherein which consider a mountain, and it has got 2 regions or 2 places. The first place has got the plain region, that is at the bottom of the mountain, and another point at the top region, that is at the end of the mountain. That the plain region contains different temperature. As you move towards the top region of the mountain, suddenly the temperature starts decreasing. Now even the range of a temperature is very lower or lowest or sub-zero levels at the polar regions, and if you go towards the deserts, the temperature can exceed more than 50 degrees Celsius also. Therefore, in our planet Earth, we have got different ecosystems having 0 degrees Celsius or less than 0 degrees Celsius, and even more than 100 degrees Celsius also. For example, you can take an example as thermal springs, deep sea hydrothermal vents. These are the places wherein which the temperature can exceed more than 100 degrees Celsius also. Now the next point of this, that if you consider a mango tree, and this mango tree does not grow in the regions called as Canada and Germany. Canada and Germany are the temperate regions, and in these places, these regions do not have the required temperature conditions to grow for the or by the mango tree. That's why the mango trees do not grow in these places. If you consider the same concept with respect to animals, let's take an example of a snow leopard. Generally, these snow leopards are not at all seen in desert areas, are not at all seen in the regions where in which the temperature conditions are very high. Snow leopards, as the name itself indicates, that these organisms are found in the negative temperatures or less temperatures. And even we can even take an example of a tuna fish, which is also rarely found or not at all found in the regions of beyond tropical latitudes in the ocean. Moving on to the next point of the temperature as an abiotic factor, that the temperature may even result in the kinetics of the enzymes. Consider that there is a low temperature such that 2 degrees, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees, the activity of the enzyme decreases. Consider a temperature called as 40 degrees, 45 degrees, 50 degrees. Once again, the activity of the enzymes decreases. Let us take an example of a temperature called as 31, 33, 35, 37. These are the temperatures wherein which the activity of an enzyme is the highest position. So we can say that the temperature also plays an important role in the kinetics of an enzyme, and the enzyme activity is higher at the temperatures somewhere around 33 to 37. And the temperatures at which the activity of the enzymes are highest are called as the optimum temperatures. Moving on to the next point of the temperature as an abiotic factor, that there are two types of organisms. One type of organism is that if you want to keep this organism in different atmospheres having different temperatures, nothing will happen to the metabolism or basic structural analysis of these organisms, because these organisms can tolerate wide range of temperature conditions. You can keep them in desert, they will live. You can keep them in tundra, they will live. You can keep in grasslands, they will live. You can keep in a variety of ecosystems wherein which the temperature is highest or lowest, immaterial. These organisms can live. Wherein which another kind of organisms are there, if you keep them in the different habitats wherein which the temperature conditions are different, they will not tolerate it. They will die because they will not suit to that particular environment. They won't get those adaptations in those particular environment. I am mentioning two names here. Name number one, eurythermal organisms, and name number two, stenothermal organisms. What are eurythermal organisms? Eurythermal organisms, as I mentioned, that these are the organisms which can tolerate wide range of temperature conditions. And what are stenothermal organisms? That these are the organisms that cannot or do not tolerate the wide range of temperatures, or these can tolerate only the narrow range of temperature conditions, and these are called as the stenothermal organisms. So let us take some examples of the eurythermal and stenothermal organisms. Now let's enter into another point called as the water. Almost each and every organism on this planet Earth is completely dependent on the presence of the water. Without water, it's highly impossible to sustain the life. The amount of the water or the concentration of the water decides its presence of flora and fauna, decides its productivity and distribution of plants and animals. For the aquatic habitat, the quality of the water also plays an important role, like pH, salinity, and temperature of water. One can think that since the organisms which are present, which live inside the water or with respect to water, do not face any kind of problems with respect to the water. Since this is the water, they should not have to face any kind of problems, isn't it? No, it's not the truth. Even in case of the oceans, rivers, etc., etc., the quality of the water plays an important role, especially in case of oceans, wherein which the salt concentration is too much. The concentration of a salt is measured in parts per thousand. Now in case of parts per thousand, the value of inland water somewhere it is around 5, and the value of the river somewhere it is around 30 to 35. Now in this case also, with respect to water, we have got two kinds of organisms. The type of organisms which can tolerate wide range of salinity conditions or alkaline conditions or different pH conditions, and another group called as the organisms which cannot live in any of these conditions, which means that these organisms are completely restricted their life only in the presence of their restricted atmosphere. So if you remove them from their atmosphere, it is not possible for them to live. As with respect to temperature, whatever that we discussed, the same kind of a point is even here also, mentioning two names, that EURYHALINE and STENOHALINE organisms. So what are EURYHALINE organisms? The organisms which can tolerate wide range of alkaline or saline or salt concentrations, and the organisms which cannot tolerate these variety of alkaline or salt or saline conditions, and they are called as the STENOHALINE organisms. Last but not the least, many freshwater aquatic animals do not or cannot live in the ocean water, and vice versa, because with respect to a lot of osmotic pressure values and the pH values and alkaline values, the problems will be faced by a lot of organisms. That's why it is not possible for the aquatic, especially freshwater organisms, to stay in the seawater or the vice versa. Now students, let's go to the next topic called as light. Light also plays an important role in the basic metabolism of a lot of plants or all the plants, because plants produce their food only in the presence of sunlight, and if you do not provide any kind of sunlight, it is not possible for any kind of plant to produce their food, because the photosynthesis depends on the sunlight. That is, all the autotrophs depend upon the sunlight, because in the presence of sunlight itself, a majority of all the plants produce their food. So the light plays an important role as a photosynthetic material. And another thing, that because of this, the oxygen will be released into the atmosphere, and that oxygen will be a lot of essential gas to a lot of organisms present on this planet Earth. Now in the forest, we should have to remember that there are tall trees, small trees, shrubs, herbs present in the forest. Now these tall trees occupy the highest position. They are like canopies. They maintain their own stratified layer. Stratified is nothing but a strata. Strata is nothing but a stage. So these stages or these plants occupy the highest position, and they only decide what kind of light condition should have to enter into the inner forest. And the left out light will be received by the small plants such as herbs and shrubs, and they do their basic metabolic or photosynthetic activity from the rest out light which is absorbed or produced by the tall trees of the forest. And the survival, reproduction, flowering of a lot of the herbs and shrubs is completely dependent on the left out light which was given by the tall trees inside the forest. For many animals, light is important because they use the diurnal and seasonal variations. What is the meaning of diurnal? Diurnal is a point which is explained as the during the day. During the day, of course, since we are studying about light, we should have to remember that light plays an important role, and during the day it plays highly important role, because with respect to plants, since the plants are completely dependent on the photosynthesis or the light, the diurnal condition and seasonal variation, because during the seasons, 3 different seasons, we have got 3 different light conditions. All the 3 seasons do not have the same temperature conditions and even the light conditions also. It even helps the plants for their foraging. Foraging is nothing but the search for food or provisions, reproductive and migratory activities. Light is commonly distributed to all parts of the earth, but if you consider an aquatic system wherein which the top layer receives the light, middle layer receives the light, and there is a bottom layer wherein which the light cannot penetrate. The top layer we can consider that as the place wherein which phytoplanktons are present. The middle layer we can consider them as the zooplanktons or nectons are present there, and the last layer wherein which the light cannot penetrate is called as the benthic layer. These organisms, since their birth or since their evolution, they never receive any kind of light, and because of their body adaptations they have got a peculiar phenomenon called as bioluminescence, wherein which they exhibit their own coloration in the absence of sunlight. Now in the NCERT textbook they asked a question: among the red, green and brown algae that inhabit a sea, which is likely to be found in the deepest waters and why? Now understand the answer here. Red algae are commonly found in the depths of the ocean, as they contain pigments such as phycobilins that can utilize short wavelengths, blue light that can penetrate deeper than other wavelengths of light. Green algae and blue-green algae are unable to use that component of light. So among red, green and brown algae, which is like to be found in the deepest water, the answer is red algae is commonly found in the depths of the oceans. Now students, we are entering into the last topic of the major abiotic factor. Let's go to the last topic as soil. Once again, with respect to temperature, with respect to light, with respect to water, even the soil is also not at all same all over or throughout the biosphere. It changes. It's not the same. It is different in different ecosystems and different biomes also. So land wise, the nature of the soil changes. The nature and the property of the soil depends upon the climate and weathering process. Climate, as I mentioned, that it is nothing but the statistical analysis of the weather. What kind of a higher temperature or lower temperature or moderate temperature is present? What kind of water conditions are there? What kind of humidic conditions are there? What kind of acidic conditions are there? What kind of saline conditions are there? What kind of precipitation conditions are there? Each and every analysis or statistical analysis is present in the climate. And the weathering process. Weathering process is nothing but with respect to friction or with respect to lightning or thundering, a larger stones will be resulting in the form of powder like structures, and those powders are nothing but different minerals or nutrients, for example phosphorus. The soil composition, grain size and aggregation determines the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil. What is percolation? Percolation is nothing but when the rain starts, and when it is raining, the water should have to enter into the cracks which are present in the soil surface, and they move down into the soil and they distribute themselves towards those cuts, and they will enter into different regions of the plant roots, and hence they will enhance the quality of water holding capacity of the soil. We have got three types of soils. Point number 1, sandy soil. Point number 2, clay soil. Point number 3 as the loamy soil. Out of these three soils, sandy soil is worst in water holding, clay soil is highest in water holding, and loamy soil is the second highest in water holding. But if you want to do agriculture, the clay soil is not at all suited for agriculture. Loamy soil is best suited for agriculture. The vegetation in an area is determined by some soil parameters like pH, mineral composition and topography. How many minerals are there? What are the different minerals present in them? Micronutrients, macronutrients, microminerals, macrominerals, essentiality of the minerals, what are the needs of the minerals. If a mineral is not at all in a sufficient quantity, what will happen to the stage of a soil, whether it affects the fertility of the soil. All these are important factors. So if the soil is said to be productive, then it means that the soil is fully filled with a lot of minerals in it. Thank you, students. Today we've discussed about 4 abiotic factors, starting from temperature, water, light and soil. We have even seen what are the different properties of these abiotic factors. We learnt how actually these affect the quality, quantity, distribution, reproduction, survival of different organisms on this earth.